The word consistency is defined as doing things over and over again and having good results. Or in simpler terms, Bruno Fernandes. This is not your typical footballer. This is a player that stands out from the crowd. A player with a talent which no other player has. A talent that begins all the way back on the 27th of August 2012. Fernandes joined the youth team of Novara FC, an Italian football club in the Serie B, after spending most of his youth career in Portuguese side Boavista. He initially struggled to adapt to the Italian setting, but he managed to settle in as he managed to outperform the youth team and was soon promoted to the first team due to his technical skill and maturity despite his young age. He still managed to play a handful of games before the end of the season. These couple of games gained traction from many big Serie A clubs like Inter Milan and Juventus. However, he decided to join Udinese as he favoured more game time. He got consistent minutes in the Serie A for 3 years at Udinese, playing as a central midfielder. Now, to be fair, his stats weren't mind-blowing, but it was his creativity and aggression that stood out from the crowd. He eventually left for another Italian side, Sampdoria, for a year before making the biggest jump of his career yet, moving back to Portugal to play for Sporting at the cost of €8.5 million. This was the turning point for Fernandes as he was finally given the chance to show his worth on the bigger stage, and it's safe to say he did exactly that. In just 2.5 seasons at Sporting, he managed 137 games, and within those, 63 goals and 52 assists. This wasn't just a slow rise, this was a complete explosion. He had the freedom to play in pretty much any midfield position, whether he wanted to play behind the striker, control the centre, or even drop deep to collect the ball. He could literally do it all. He thrived in Sporting's system and became their main free kick and penalty taker, as well as captaining the club from 2018 onwards. He had solidified himself as a league favourite and started gaining lots of attraction from even bigger clubs. But there was only one that stood out for him, and thus, on the 29th of January 2020, Bruno Fernandes joined Man United for £50 million. At this moment in time, United were really struggling in terms of creativity on the pitch. They had midfield talents like Lingard and Pogba, however they needed someone more efficient in the middle. He made an instant impact within the team, being thrown pretty much instantly into the starting lineup. He rescued the team from 7th to 3rd within the remainder of that season. He won back-to-back Player of the Month awards as well as picking up United's Player of the Season. All of this in just 5 months of playing. He carried his form into the next season, and despite the Europa League final loss, he remained stronger than ever, recording a major 28 goals and 17 assists across all competitions. He was seen as completely unstoppable. Despite an underwhelming 21-22 season, Bruno still managed to be a top assister in the UCL. However, fans began to grow frustrated over Bruno's moany attitude on the pitch and would be seen to be a big problem later on. He managed to pick his form back up under new manager Erik ten Hag in the 22-23 season, being surrounded by attackers like Garnacho and Rashford and the mighty Wout Weghorst. He managed to create the most chances that season, and the most from any United player since 2004, helping the team win the Carabao Cup as well as qualify for the Champions League once again. Since Bruno got the captain's armband in July 2023, he's kept at a consistent level. Despite the lowest of lows at the club, he still managed to put in record numbers in back-to-back seasons. This brings us up to the present day, where Bruno is now playing in a deeper role under Amorim, and yet is still their standout player, performing week in and week out, and yet still, people question him. But why? Well, first we have to ask, what is he actually good at? And the answer is literally everything. You want to put him up front? Sure. You want to put him in defence? Sure. You want him as goalkeeper? Sure. He'd be the best keeper there. Bruno's flexibility across the pitch is one of his strongest attributes. He's found a role of playing deeper within Amorim and kind of being the cover over the defence, which has been proven successful, yet he still manages to find gaps within the attack and give them chances. His versatility is something seen in no other player but him. Sometimes when he is playing higher up at the pitch, you can't ignore his creative ability. You can see here that his passing ability is one of the best in the world, being in that top few players within any stat, passes attempted, total pass distance, progressive passes, all the things that you can see Bruno really shines in. He outperforms big name players like Yamal, Gyökeres, Salah and more when it comes to his passing. And the fact he's managed 15 assists with an attack of, well, damn, is genuinely the most impressive thing in football. But it's not just creating goals. When it comes to actually scoring them, Bruno is pretty much the best in the team in doing so, and even one of the best in the league. As a deep midfielder, he still managed an impressive 14 goals this season. Even in a struggling season, he managed to overperform his XG and was clinical when United needed him most. His pressing and aggression towards defenders has also led to a numerous amount of chances and even goals this season, and is another of tons of different attributes Bruno has. However, it's not all just great and happy when it comes to Bruno Fernandes. No player is perfect, and for Bruno, this comes in the form of two different things. Two things that have the potential to separate him from some of the greats, and they are risk and attitude. Let me explain. Fernandes likes to take a risk. A lot of risks. Now usually you only see in highlights successful risks, like risks that go well. But when you actually watch the full 90 minutes, he loses the ball from a lot of silly mistakes. He often shoots from long distances for no reason, which ends 99% of the time in row Z, instead of actually building the attack. However, personally, I don't see this as a huge issue, as despite his rather low success rate, he still manages to deliver and save the club from disastrous results. And the second, and probably biggest setback, is his attitude. I mentioned this in a video I did on Bruno a little over a year ago now, and I do think it has improved, but it still needs work. His whiny attitude on the pitch is a huge problem that needs to be fixed. Being the captain of a club to just go and whine and throw your arms around the pitch is unacceptable. However, his passion for the club is something that has shifted in the last year. Despite most people saying how he's not captain material, I now think he's one of the best captains the club has ever had. I mean, rejecting £700,000 a week just to play for a 15th place Man United team with no hope of Europe next season just shows how much he cares for the club and how important he's going to be for the future. Yeah, I think I've lost my mind. There's delusion, and then there's this. Anyway, Amad Diallo has been taking Man United by storm over the last couple of months, being praised on multiple occasions for his exceptional performances. As I was researching this video, I couldn't find anyone to compare Diallo to, but then I found something. Is it far-fetched? Yeah, probably. But it looks good in the thumbnail, so here we are. This is the story of Amad Diallo. On the 11th of July 2002, Amad Diallo was born in the south of Ivory Coast. He emigrated to Italy when he was young, and that's where he would start his footballing career. He joined his local club Boca Barco at the age of 12. He impressed many and gained interest from many Serie A clubs. He decided to move to Atalanta, where he would make his way up through the academy up until the age of 17, where he appeared in his first senior game for the club, coming on as a substitute against Udinese. He would make 4 more appearances for the club, scoring just 1 goal, before catching the eye of Man United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who considered him as one of the most exciting prospects in the game. After a bit of back and forth, United managed to complete the deal for £18 million in January 2021, with nearly £20 million in add-ons, meaning the final package could rise to nearly £37 million. The second the signing was complete, people started asking the question, why would the club be willing to spend up to £37 million on a player who, before signing for United, had played just 76 minutes of professional football? This was just another one of those Man United signings that just didn't make sense. However, Ole denied those questions and complimented Diallo, saying it will take time for him to adapt, but his speed, his vision and his fantastic dribbling ability will stand him in good stead to make the transition. He made his first few appearances for the under-21s, where it was obvious he was better than playing in youth teams, as he would go on to score 3 and assist 3 in his first 2 academy games. He made a few more appearances in the senior team before being loaned out to Rangers at the beginning of the 21-22 season, where he would get a little bit more game time. However, he still sat on the bench for the majority of the games. However, what was to happen next? would turn his career from a falling prospect to utter stardom. On the 31st of August 2022, Amad joined Championship side Sunderland on a one-year loan deal. Despite it being a rocky start, he was given plenty of game time, and as a result, he learned from his mistakes and began to improve and perform. He won the EFL Player of the Month in December after scoring 3 goals in 5 games. He ended the season with 14 goals and 4 assists, helping Sunderland reach the Premier League playoffs. And despite his incredible free kick against Luton, they were knocked out of the playoffs as Luton were promoted to the Premier League. After the long wait, Diallo had finally had his breakout season. As he returned to United, the fans fell in love with him after seeing his exceptional Sunderland performances. He was included in their pre-season tour and was given the chance to show fans how much he had improved. And he did exactly that. Everything was going to plan, but then something happened. In a pre-season game against Arsenal, he picked up a knee injury, ruling him out for the first half of the season. This was a huge blow as now his chance to shine was put to a halt. He returned to football 5 months later. However, he wasn't really given a chance to play. He either spent most of his games on the bench or was subbed on later in the game. But that was until the 17th of March, where his entire career was changed forever. Diallo began on the bench for the FA Cup quarter-final game against Liverpool. After one of the most climactic games ever, the game was brought to extra time. Harvey Elliott scored in the 105th minute, and after Rashford scored the equaliser, the unthinkable happened. Diallo scored in the last minute to give United a dramatic 4-3 win. Overnight, Diallo had gone from a rising star to the top of the stardom ladder. So you'd think, surely, after this incredible performance, he would surely be in the starting 11, right? Well, Ten Hag decided to bench Diallo the next game for Anthony. Yeah, that Anthony. And it wasn't just this game. He was benched game after game. It was like all his work meant nothing. Despite not playing the FA Cup final, he capped off a rather successful season with United. His strong attributes like his dribbling, his progressing, his passing and his shooting were all starting to come to light, and people began to see the sheer potential he had. This brings us up to the 24-25 season, where after an incredibly strong pre-season, Diallo had finally been given a space in the starting 11 over Anthony, bringing us up to the present day. So now it's time to address the big elephant in the room. Why have I decided to compare Amad Diallo to Lionel Messi? Well, it's complicated, but hear me out here. Diallo has many strong attributes. When he plays, you can see that. He has a rather unique yet effective style. He enjoys dribbling up the pitch, then either laying it off, cutting it inside to shoot, or keep dribbling so he can win a foul, which worked well in pre-season. Now, if you try to find another player with similar attributes to this, it wasn't easy. At first, I thought Bukayo Saka, which is a fair shout as I think he has similar attributes. But Messi is the closest player I could find. Put them side by side and you can see how similar they are. Now, obviously, Diallo is nowhere near the level Messi is, and there is an extremely high chance that he will never be on the level of Messi. However, if he continues the way he does at United, I can easily see him ball out at United over the next few years and potentially cement himself as one of the club's legends.
Right, we have some huge breaking news.
Kobbie Mainoo.
Kobbie Mainoo.
Kobbie Mainoo!
Kobbie Mainoo. Currently at the front and centre of the Man United midfield, he has been regarded as the next big player for the club. He has been one of the team's star players, playing nearly every single game for the last few months, all at the age of 18 years old. There's been some big claims of how his future will be, but one of them really stands out for me, and it's from former Man United striker Berbatov, and he says this: Kobbie Mainoo is a special talent and courageous. He's our new Paul Scholes. But is it true? Will he be able to live up to his claims and one day maybe be as good as Paul Scholes? Well, to answer that, we have to go back to 2014. Although we don't know much about his youth career, we know he joined United at a young age of 9. Before that, he was playing at Cheadle and Gately FC. Throughout the years, he progressed up the ranks of the youth system, making a good impression every single year. He was called up to the England's under-17 squad. However, his big breakout came in a game against Carlisle United in the EFL Trophy. This game single-handedly impressed Ten Hag enough that the very next game he was in the team sheet for the senior team. Despite being on the bench the whole game, he was now training consistently with the senior team. He made his first senior appearance on the 10th of January 2023 in the starting lineup against Charlton in the EFL Cup. Now, his overall performance wasn't brilliant, but you gotta recognise it was his first senior game and he was only 17 years of age. He remained on the bench the next few games until he came on in the 73rd minute against Reading in the FA Cup. This time he had a way better game, having an astonishing 100% pass accuracy. The fans were starting to notice his ability as the teenager was starting to gain more recognition. He made his Premier League debut against Leicester in February. However, after this he remained on the bench for the rest of the season. But little did he know that the next season would change his life forever. Before the 23-24 season began, Mainoo appeared in the starting lineup against Leeds in a friendly in a one-of-a-kind performance. This is the game that Ten Hag realised that Kobbie Mainoo was absolutely everywhere. One minute he's intercepting the ball, next minute he's darting up the left wing. Despite only playing 45 minutes, his energy and stamina were unmatched. Ten Hag knew this kid was special, so he decided to start him against both Lyon and Arsenal in a friendly. He capped another brilliant display against Lyon and managed to grab his first assist against Arsenal. He was quick, he was agile, his passes were near immaculate. What could possibly go wrong now? Disaster struck as Mainoo was injured in the 6th minute, forcing him to leave the pitch. It was later discovered he had suffered an ankle injury and was out for little under 3 months, meaning he wasn't available for the start of the season. This was bad news for him and the club as they were in a bit of an injury crisis themselves. After being on the sidelines for 17 games, he returned to action against Everton on the 26th of November 2023. Despite Garnacho scoring an absolute worldie, it was Kobbie Mainoo who picked up the Man of the Match award. After this, he was integrated back into the team, playing both against Galatasaray and Newcastle in the coming weeks. However, it all kicked off in the new year. Mainoo began the year by starting against Wigan in the FA Cup, where he produced a masterful performance, solidifying him as a member of the starting lineup. He scored his first goal against Newport in the FA Cup and scored his first league goal in the form of a winner in the 97th minute against Wolves. And after 2 solid performances against both West Ham and Aston Villa, that brings us to the present day. So the question now stands, can Mainoo be as good as Paul Scholes one day and go down as a Man United legend? Yes. Why? Let me explain. I'm delusional. Jokes aside, I do genuinely think Mainoo could not only fulfill his potential, but exceed his potential and become one of the greatest Premier League midfielders of all time. If I ask you what traits does a midfielder need to become world class like Paul Scholes, what would you say? Chances are you probably said something like passing or speed or agility or intelligence, and yeah, you would be correct. You can see glimpses of all this when Mainoo plays. His passing is immaculate, he's fast, he's agile, he's got stamina, he's intelligent, he's composed. It's incredible that he's able to harness all these traits at such a young age. I really want to focus in on his passing because these numbers genuinely look fake. His passing accuracy currently is 91%. There are very few games where his passing accuracy is below 90%. And with games like Reading, his passing accuracy was 100%. And these aren't boring passes behind either. He's making good progressive passes, driving the ball up the pitch. His playmaking abilities really remind me of Paul Scholes. And that brings us on to my second point, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, but the guy is absolutely everywhere. 1 second he could be playing centre mid, the next minute he's playing right wing. 1 second he could be playing right wing, next minute he's playing centre back. On the pitch it looks like he has infinite stamina. He never gets tired, he puts 100% effort in until the very end, and my favourite of all is that he's able to track back. The passion he has for the club is indescribable, and the work and effort he puts in is unmatched. His work ethic seriously reminds me of a young Paul Scholes. Put them side by side and see how similar they are. And the icing on the cake is that he has such a special talent and can do things that some currently highly regarded Premier League midfielders aren't able to do, all at the age of 18 years old. So going back to Berbatov's comments, is he right? This is Harry Maguire, and chances are you've probably heard of him before.
Hi there, good evening. We start with breaking news.
Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire.
Harry Potter!
Despite the achievements throughout his career, he is ridiculed by people around the world, even his own fans.
The guy is an absolute clown every time he comes on the pitch.
If I'm Harry Maguire, I'm looking for a new club right now.
Get rid of Harry Maguire! Get rid of Harry Maguire!
So it begs the question, why? Why is he so disrespected? This is the story of the up and down career of Harry Maguire. On the 5th of March 1993, a boy named Jacob Harry Maguire was born in English city, Sheffield. From the age of 7, he joined his local team, Sheffield United, and worked his way all the way up through the academy to the age of 17, where thanks to the senior team struggling with relegation in the 11-12 season, he was given a chance to play. In his first game, he came on at half-time and played well, earning him the Man of the Match award. He made a further 4 more appearances that season for the club, but it wasn't enough as they were relegated from the Championship into League One. Because of this relegation, Sheffield United were forced to sell some of their best players in order to stay financially stable, and because of this, they couldn't sign anyone to replace them. And that's why they called upon Harry Maguire, who managed to cement himself in the first team for the upcoming season. He played a combined 161 games over the next 3 seasons for the Blades, helping them reach the semi-finals of the FA Cup and the semi-finals of the League Cup, and in the process being part of League One's PFA Team of the Year in 2012. After interest from many different clubs, he joined Premier League and Europa League side Hull City at the beginning of the 14-15 season. Now this was a huge leap for Maguire, going from League One all the way up to the Premier League in one move. It was never going to be easy, and sure enough, after playing just 6 games, he was loaned out to Championship side Wigan Athletic on a 6-month deal. He would go ahead and start the 16 games for Wigan in the remainder of that season. Meanwhile, back in Hull, their side was struggling in the Prem, and after a fierce battle to try and stay up, they were relegated back to the Championship on the final day. In a similar fashion to Sheffield United, Hull were forced to sell some of their best players and couldn't afford to replace them, and that is exactly where Maguire came in. He became part of the squad, playing 33 games in all competitions, including the playoff final, where thanks to him and other players, Hull City were promoted back to the Premier League. However, despite having players like Maguire, Bowen, Ryan Mason and even Andy Robertson, fate played out a similar way and they were relegated back down to the Championship the same season. Despite the relegation, Maguire's performances weren't overshadowed, and after a bit of negotiation, he joined Leicester City the next season for a fee of £12 million. His time at Leicester began well as he was cemented into their back 4. He played game after game after game for Leicester, putting in a shift time after time after time again. Despite the season being poor for Leicester compared to the previous 2 seasons, Maguire still showed he was worth every single penny. He played at Leicester for 2 seasons, playing 76 games in the process. However, what was to happen next would change his life forever. On the 2nd of August 2019, Leicester City accepted a bid of £80 million from Manchester United for Harry Maguire. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted Maguire in the team to try and improve their poor back line at the time. The £80 million price tag set upon him was more expensive than the £75 million price tag Liverpool paid for Van Dijk, meaning Maguire was now the most expensive midfielder in the world. No pressure, right? He made his debut in the opening game against Chelsea, where in all fairness, he showed a 10 out of 10 performance as United beat Chelsea 4-0 and Maguire was handed man of the match. His first few months at the club were all going well. He was playing well, and just 6 months into the journey at United, he was handed the captain's armband following the departure of Ashley Young. The main reason for this was because he was one of the only players in the squad to play every single game, and sure enough, he literally played every single second of the 1920 season, and rightfully so. His stream of good performances earned him the spot in the back row, also because it was either him or Phil Jones. After a fairly successful first season, all he had to do was continue the way he began, but little did he know that his whole career and even his whole life was about to spiral into epileptic despairs of chaos. You see, up to this point, Maguire had the whole world of football watching his every step. I mean, come on, he was the most expensive defender in the world and captain of the infamous Manchester United. All it took was a single mistake and his reputation would come crashing down. And sure enough, that is exactly what happened. Maguire began making constant mistakes in games, some being minor slip-ups, but some being so critical that they could cost the team some valuable points. These mistakes caused major backlash from the media and the fans, causing him to mess up even more. This leads us to the 21-22 season, otherwise known as by far Maguire's worst season ever. Now, in all fairness, the season started amazingly. The club signed Sancho, Varane, and reunited with Cristiano Ronaldo. The whole squad looked brilliant. However, fate would think differently, as this would go on to be for sure the worst season the club has ever had in the Premier League. And in all fairness, quite a lot of it was down to Maguire. The team conceded 57 goals that season, the most since 1978. I could cover all of Maguire's mistakes, however that would turn this 10-minute video into a 4-hour movie. I'll be straight up honest with you here and say Maguire was absolutely abysmal that season. His play was sloppy, his distribution was sloppy, and his defending... Let's not go there. It's safe to say he had the entire world turned on him. Things got so bad that he got a bomb threat from his house and was forced to evacuate for the police to search his house. At the end of the season, Ajax manager Erik ten Hag was appointed as the new boss, and rightfully so. He had no mercy on Maguire. He signed Martinez to replace him and demoted him to at one point 4th choice centre back. He was stripped of his captain's armband, which was given to Bruno Fernandes, and was forced to watch games from the bench, starting just 8 games that season, and that was only because of Martinez's injury. It was looking like the end of the road for Maguire. His opportunities at United were becoming slimmer, and after the club agreed a fee of 30 million with West Ham for the player, it was the end for Maguire at United. But what if he had one more chance? You see, there was still unfinished business that only he could complete. He rejected West Ham with the intent to stay at United. He was desperate to get back into that first team. He worked tirelessly day to night, awake to sleep. He spent every second he could trying to prove to not only himself, but to the people that doubted him and ridiculed him most, that he could do it. He began the 23-24 season on the bench, but that didn't stop him. He put everything he had into his training, and sure enough, he was given a chance. Ten Hag saw how much he was improving, and he was given his starting spot back after replacing Varane in the starting lineups. This was a chance to show what he was worth, and sure enough, he did exactly that. He helped the team to the last grasp 2-1 win to Brentford, providing the final assist for McTominay's winner. He scored the winner against Copenhagen in the Champions League to secure United with 3 crucial points. And after 3 stellar performances in November 2023, helping the club keep 3 clean sheets in a row, Maguire was given the Premier League Player of the Month to mark probably the most incredible comeback known in football. So it begs the question, why is he still so disrespected to this day despite all these highs? Well, to me, I think it simply comes down to the past. A, he was labelled as the most expensive defender ever, and B, he was handed the captain's armband within just 6 months of being at the club. The pressure set upon him was so big that when it came to a simple mistake, he was criticised more and his confidence was harshly affected as a result. His mistakes and failures come to mind before his highs and successes, which is purely unfair. But the thing is,
yeah, this is really interesting breaking news.
Bruno Fernandes has signed for Manchester United.
74 goals and 62 assists in 226 appearances.
Fernandes goes for goal! Bruno Fernandes!
And that was absolutely lethal.
Yet despite his best efforts, he is hated by the media.
Don't be such a baby.
Fernandes, captain. I mean, give me a break.
This is the story of one of, if not the most hated player in football. On the 27th of August 2012, Bruno Fernandes signed his first senior contract for former Serie B side Novara FC after previously playing at Infesta and Boavista in his youth career. He initially struggled but managed to adapt to the Italian lifestyle, going on to get promoted to the first team, picking up 4 goals and 23 appearances in the 2012-13 season, helping the club finish in a playoff position. In the summer of 2013, teams like Inter Milan and Juventus saw him as a promising player and were pushing to sign him, but he decided to go for other Serie A side Udinese, who promised the player plenty of minutes in the first team. Although he didn't have an outlasting impact at the club, he was still regarded as a very exciting prospect in European football. He stayed at Udinese up until 2017 when Sporting Portugal managed to snap him up for around £8.5 million, where he instantly became a hit for the club. He scored 4 in his first 5 games, but not only that, but his overall performances day in and day out were outstanding. He ended his first season with 16 goals, winning the Liga Player of the Year. However, this was only the beginning, as he doubled his goal tally the next season, scoring 33 goals, winning back-to-back Player of the Years, and becoming the highest scoring Portuguese midfielder in a single season. As his performances got bigger and better, so did his price tag. By January 2020, he was worth a whopping €60 million. And after interest from many big clubs from around the world, it was Man United who got his signature on the 29th of January 2020. He hit the ground running, scoring his first goal in February, winning Player of the Month in his first full month. He also began balling out in June to win his second Player of the Month in less than 6 months, as well as being presented with the Matt Busby Award, an award given out to the best player that year, which when you put into perspective, doesn't sound real. Fernandes played just 4 months that season, yet was still their best player, ahead of the likes of De Gea, Rashford, Pogba, Martial, Greenwood and more. He continued balling out for United the next few seasons, breaking record after record. In 2023, he was given the captain's armband to replace Harry Maguire as club captain, and after now scoring 74 goals for United, that's where we are today. So the question stands, why is he so hated? I mean, he helped United at the worst of times, scoring crucial goals and directing the movement of the team. Yet for some reason, he still gets stabbed in the back by the media. Let's go through the reasons why he's hated. Does he deserve to be hated? Then I'll tell you my opinion on the matter at the end of the video. So why? Why is he hated? Well, there are lots of reasons, but I've narrowed it down to 3 distinct reasons why people hate him so much. The obvious and most popular reason is his overall leadership and mentality. Fernandes doesn't have a strong reputation when it comes to his mentality, and you can quite commonly see him complaining or moaning pretty much every time he loses the ball. This was only intensified as he became club captain. Being captain to one of the greatest teams in the world requires a lot of commitment and confidence. If you look at the club's past captains like Brian Robson, Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Vidic, Valencia, when you add Bruno to that mix, he doesn't quite fit in. These players fought for the badge. When they lost, they didn't complain but instead fought on. Bruno, however, well, doesn't. This sense of a weak mentality stirs up a lot of hate, and there has been times as a United fan that I've criticised him for his just poor attitude. This is why a lot of fans call him a rat, a mix of diving, moaning, and the fact he actually looks like a rat. Another thing is mainly centred around the actual Man United fans criticising his performances. Looking at the recent 2-2 draw to Liverpool, we can see how he performed. Key passes: 1. Passing accuracy, 75%. Crosses, 5. Successful crosses, 1. Possession lost, 18 times. Games like that are when fans like to pounce in him, which in fairness, it wasn't his best game from him. But what fans don't look at here is his absolutely absurd injury record. Since the start of the season, he has not missed a single game for injury. He only missed 1 game because of a suspension. And what's even more insane is that he's played the full game, the full 90 minutes, every single game this season. This man hasn't missed a minute all season. If we scale out the timeline out of his 4 years at the club, he has missed a total of 1 game to injury. That's right, 1. And that wasn't even an injury, he was ill. His longevity and commitment is one of the best I've seen from a man who literally plays every single second for the club. And this too can have a toll in his performances. How do you expect a guy who literally plays every single minute of the season to play at his absolute best every single game? It's really just not possible. I think what Ten Hag should do is rest him for a few games, then bring him back, and hopefully we get some good performances again. So the question now stands, should Fernandes be more respected or does he deserve the hate? Here's my opinion. Yes, there are times Bruno can have a lack of discipline, a lack of commitment, and a weak mentality. But there are also times that he's carried the team on his back, times he's spared the team to keep going, and times he has saved us from dropping points. Should he be captain? No. I don't think so. But does he deserve to get the hate he gets? Of course not. He's one of our best players. If he stays at the club for a few more years, I am certain he'll go down as one of the best players Man United has ever had. If you want to watch another video about United, click this video here about the entire history of Man United. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya.